Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: When Entitlement Meets a Brave Employee, a tale of a refund battle. The second story: Taking a stand against workplace bullying, how I turned the tables. The third story: Refusing to work 2 jobs at once leads to victory. The first story is Entitled Mom Tries to Outwit Employee. Though this doesn't directly impact me and my SO, I still thought I'd share it. So there we were on vacation inside of this giant Barnes & Noble, right? We had biked about 4.5 miles there and back, and we weren't there for just a short amount of time. We had gotten there around the same time this lady had, and we hadn't thought much of it. She was wearing some pretty expensive clothes to be going into a bookstore. Like super expensive. I'm talking basically a suit, and she struts in before us. We giggle and move on. I'd say a good 2 hours goes by, and she's lurking on the bottom floor of the place, right? Well, when we get down to check out, that's when things get interesting, as she also storms over there with us. Blowing past us in a flurry, almost like she was waiting for an audience, she all but hauls A to the first register, and before the employee can even begin to open her mouth, the EM snarls in her face. EM, I want a refund. The employee recoils, not appreciating the fact that the woman nearly pressed her face into the protective glass barrier. Employee, okay, do you have a receipt? The woman rolls her eyes. My partner and I are dillying around with the little kiosk setups, trying hard to act like we weren't listening and watching. EM, yes, I do here. She thrust down the receipt in her hand and the items that she had bought, throwing her hip to the side and looking around the room. Employee, I'm sorry, ma'am. This receipt is past our return dates, so you cannot return it. The EM gasps, pressing a hand to her chest. EM, excuse you? You're lying. I read that receipt this morning. I still have a whole week before I can't return it anymore. The employee rubs their hand on the back of their neck before shaking their head in dismay. Employee, no ma'am, this receipt is too old. I'm sorry, but you'll have to keep the item. The EM slams her hands onto the counter before she begins to pace, which startles me and my SO. Things aren't going too well, so we start checking out a register away from them. EM, I'm sorry, I don't think you heard me right the first time. My receipt is fine. And even if it is a little old, I know the owner of this store, and so does my son. We'll get you fired if you don't just return the item. The employee lets out an angry huff through their nose, and our cashier calls over to them. Employee 2, I'm sorry, ma'am. If employee name says that the receipt is too old, then it must be too old. I can take a look if you want. The EM glares at our cashier, grumbles under her breath about butting into the conversation, and turns back to the original employee. EM, no, I want a refund off this stupid item. I'm going to get it one way or another. I'll make you a deal. She leans on the countertop, placing one of her fingers onto the glass, leaving a nasty A smudge all over it. EM continues. I'll pay for it again, and you can give me the refund I want. Capiche? The employee looks at the woman incredulously. Did she really just understand the words that had come out of her mouth? I turn and buried my face into my partner's shoulder, pausing our transaction once more, cackling as quietly as I could. The other customers looked on around in shock, but the employee began to move before another thought was processed. Employee, yes ma'am, I'll gladly rescan this item for you, that way you can get a refund for it. We could feel the roll of confidence and smugness rolling off EM, as she crossed her arms and watched the employee with glee. As they continued on, we moved around the corner and out of sight, but just within earshot to hear the rest of the conversation go down. The employee finished what they did, and we could hear the petty change being handed back to the EM. The angry cry that came out of her assumingly smug face was disgusting. EM, gasp, this is not the refund that I was meant to receive. You were supposed to refund me for twice the amount because I already paid for the item once. Employee, no ma'am, as I stated before, you originally could not return the item because it was past the date. EM shrieking, where is your manager? You be, I'll have you ruined. You stole my money. We peeked our heads around the corner and watched as the employee shrugged their shoulders, rolling their eye and beginning to pull something out from behind the counter. Employee, go find her yourself. I'm not helping you anymore. The employee whipped out her phone and leaned back against the counter behind her. EM began screaming at her and our cashier from before, demanding the manager come up to the register. Things started to get too heated, so we left before I went back over there and threw a fit myself. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, a dramatic moment turns into a comedy of the highest order. This story about the titular mom who decides to outsmart a poor employee is somewhat reminiscent of a scene from some crazy comedy movie. Scene 1. Grand appearance. Mom arrives at the store like a star on the red carpet, but ends up turning into a comic heroine. Scene 2. How to talk the cashier down. EM confidently declares that she has the check, which turns out to be expired. Scene 3. A masterpiece of deception. A sudden turn of events when EM tries to prove that she knows the store owner and play the threat of firing card. Scene 4. The Great Deal. Attempting to make a deal to return merchandise despite apparent obstacles. Scene 5. The Counter Conspiracy. EM leaves his mark on the glass and continues to press the employee. Scene 6. Returning with a vengeance. After the employee agrees, EM demands not just a refund, but double the amount. Finally, the grand finale. EM is left without a prize and the employee makes it look like she's the main star of a ridiculous comedy show. Who would have thought that an ordinary trip to the store would turn into a story worthy of a spot on a comedy playlist? The second story is the story how I got my workplace bully to quit. Hello everyone, a little background. I was in Iowa for college and was working at McDonald's to help pay for tuition. This girl did not like me. I know this because she walked up to me one day and just to let you know, OP, I hate you, and then walked away, and from that point on she was a jerk every time she saw me. She had a nasty comment, or would mess with me like drain the sink while I was washing the dishes, or purposely dump sauce on my clean dishes and just say oops. One more thing about her was she was a flirt. She flirted with every guy that came into the drive-thru, every guy that came in the lobby. Now that's done, on with our tale. Cast. B equals bully, the girl I just told you about above. BRM. Bully's roommate. He worked with us at the store. M is manager. Me is an overworked, underpaid college student. It was about 5 minutes from the end of my 3 to 11 shift, and I was ready to go home. I was in back drive finishing up my dishes so I could go back to my dorm room and get some sleep before I had to be up at 6 for my classes the next day. I heard her walk in and ask the manager, B, hey, where am I tonight? M, you'll be closing back drive tonight. B whining, but I don't want to close back drive. She catches sight of me as I'm walking up to grab a quick drink. B, make OP do it. He has no life. M, OP is about to get off so he can't do it. Plus, you're the one that called and begged for more hours, so this is what you're getting. B looking at me. You better have all those effing dishes done before I get back there. Me trying to be nice. They're done. B, why the F are you even up here when you have effing dishes to do? Me finally having enough. Look, B, I'm not one of your drive-thru boyfriends. It's not my job to make you happy. B looks dumbstruck that I actually yelled. Her shock quickly turned to anger. That she threw down the frap she was drinking, clocked out, and stormed out of the store. M, well that was stupid. Unfortunately, OP, I now do not have anyone to close tonight. I know you just worked a full 8, but could you please close tonight? I'll give you a free meal and an extra break for all the trouble. Me sighing. Yeah, sure. M, when did you want me to take it? M, let's close lobby first, then you can take it. As soon as this was said, BRM walks in. BRM, hey M, B says she'll come back as soon as OP is fired and leaves. M, tell B not to worry about it, I've already started the paperwork. Also tell her she's no longer welcome back at this store. And if you have a problem with that, you can turn in your shirt too. This was by far one of the best managers I ever worked for. He was awesome and I really do miss him. It looks like a real-life fast food drama. Meet our main character, a hardworking McDonald's employee. Then there's B, a workplace bully who seems to have a special dislike for our OP. B, with the agility of a bulldozer, expresses her hatred for the OP right to their face. But this is only the beginning of her culinary terror. From sabotaging dishes to flirting with every customer she meets, B's antics know no bound. But it's not all doom and gloom. Our hero OP decides to stand up to B's tyranny by uttering a phrase that would make any comeback fan proud. I'm not one of your passing boys. Mic drops. And enraged, B runs out of the auditorium, leaving the manager at a loss. But the manager is no coward. He quickly kicks B out of the shop. The end result is a heartwarming story about justice being served through fries. The third story is, told my boss I wouldn't work 2 jobs at once, and he fought me relentlessly, but in the end I won. For context, I'm a journalist that works at an outlet that primarily covers video games, but also film, TV, and tech. I started at my job 1.5 years ago, specializing in film and TV. The thing is, my department head specializes in, and only has interest in, covering games, when he's paid good money to oversee all verticals that fall under our area of coverage. The way our team was structured, he and one other person handled games, 2 people handled tech, but only one person, me, handled film and TV, the most prolific of all the categories. Because of my boss's unwillingness to touch film and TV coverage, it became quickly apparent that I was the only one on the team who had no one to cover for me. If I ever took a vacation without me coming back to a dumpster fire and taking a ton of heat for it. In 1.5 years, I never took a day off where I fully logged off. I brought this issue up to my boss, who takes 1 week off every month, several times, and he basically just acted like I was whining. The issue got so bad after my appendix ruptured at the end of last month and caused a life-threatening infection that wouldn't go away even after my appendectomy. I was still working from the hospital because there was no one to cover me for while I recovered. Recently though, another department head started trying to poach me for her department. Our publisher was also on board for this, eager even. After finally fully recovering from my ruptured appendix, I gave them a solid answer and told them I would move departments, specifically because I would never be able to take a vacation in my current role. It was Tuesday when I accepted the role. My new manager and our publisher were thrilled and wanted to move as fast as possible, asking if I could start my new job as early as next Monday. I told them I'd be happy to, but my current boss was going to freak out, as he doesn't know how to run his own department and never figured out a way to cover for me. I also insisted that I would not do both jobs at once while we searched for a replacement, as I knew I would be stuck doing that unless I put my foot down. They both assured me that that wouldn't happen, and that they would handle my boss. They broke the news to him separately, knowing what his reaction would be, and I messaged him to say that we needed to meet to work through the specifics of my transition. He told me I would still need to work for his department until we found a replacement for me. I told him no, I wouldn't do that, and I was told by people higher than him that I wouldn't have to. He continued to try to back me into a corner, and pushed and pushed and pushed, hoping I would fold and he could take that to our publisher and say, see, she's fine with it, like the good little team player I am. Eventually, he started blaming me for the quick transition. Boss, I'm just concerned about a fast transition if I'm not getting much support. If you were leaving the company, you'd give your 2 weeks notice and we'd immediately post the job. As it is, 1 4-day week of notice and I'm not sure when the job posting's going up. It's going to take some time to fill it. The problem is that without you pitching in is that all of that falls to me, until we get someone else in here. And I'm not that well equipped to do it, making it even more stressful. I'm hoping to spread it around at least a little bit. Me. I told you many times previously that the issue of no one being able to fully cover for me was a giant problem that would need to be addressed eventually, and you're only now taking it seriously when you're the one paying the price. I've been paying for the fact that you aren't capable of running the department you paid good money to run for 1.5 years, and your failures are no longer my problem. The rest of this conversation is above my pay grade. Publisher decided on the start date and my duties. I'm fine if he wants to delay that start date, but that's up to him. But I'm drawing a hard boundary that I will not work at 2 jobs at once. Take the rest up with publisher. I stopped talking to him after that, and told my publisher and new manager about what was happening. Publisher stepped in, told me to no longer speak with him, and that he would handle it. Today I sat awaiting updates while I let my publisher handle my boss, and the two fought all afternoon, but I had no part in it. Eventually my publisher told me I could officially make my transition to my new department on Monday, and any failures that happened in my previous department as a result would be a reflection of my soon-to-be former boss. In short, I'm beyond proud of myself for standing up for myself. If I would have let him take advantage of me, he would have, but I stood my ground and won, and I couldn't feel more validated in my decision to move. Well, it seems that in this battle between the movie industry and video games, your career has taken a turn. At first, the boss tried to corner you like in the game, but you took a report shot and moved to a movie studio. Now you're the real hero of your own story arc, and you might even win an Oscar for the best role of your own life. Thank you for your likes, comments, and subscriptions. I really do appreciate it.